Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby League, a show where two rugby league tragics talk everything rugby league on your way to and from work. I'm Shano.
And I'm the chameleon.
Welcome aboard, and on with the show. Griffo, welcome. It's great to have you here. I suppose it's been a week since we've done, or it's been a fortnight, since we've done a podcast. Elephant in the room is State of Origin. I saw you shortly after. And no one was willing to talk about it. I suppose short debrief. Congratulations to Queensland. That hurts me to say it, but we do have listeners in Queensland, so congratulations to you guys. New South Wales, coaching wise, looks much the same as next year. I suppose 30-second thoughts, Griff.
Yeah, regrettable, disappointing from a Blues perspective. But congratulations to the better team won the game. As much as that pains me to say, I was at the ground, just sort of expected more in attack from the Blues. Defensively, a couple of poor decisions, I guess. Lack of... I was going to say lack of effort, but I just think it was not being aware of what needed to be done. It was a bad decision made by the winger who came up with a number of mistakes on the night. There was the good work done by Brian Toto and Latrell in pushing the Queensland attacker. Looked like it was going to go into touch. He got the ball back in, and there was just a lack of desperation from, certainly one Blues player, which gave Hammer time to get it moving, and then he was just too quick for the other guy coming across. And that should have been prevented. The kick from Jerome Luai early in the game, when New South Wales actually started quite well, he built up momentum, and then it was a momentum killer when he put the ball into the in goal with an easy catch and 7 tackles set. Harry Grant scored a try that Queensland should not have had the ball at that time. If the winger had have caught the ball in the in goal, there was under no pressure, just dropped it backwards, and instead of a 7 tackle Blues set, we had a dropout. And it wasn't Lomax's fault he didn't miss the tackle, but Queensland wouldn't have had the ball if he had caught it, and it was things like that. Queensland won the game. Billy Slater comes up smelling like 1,000 roses.
I think, Griffo, it's funny you mentioned a lack of urgency. I thought in that last game, someone during the week asked for a couple of comments, or my comments on the game, and for me it was no one played to the class that they play for their club, and that had been the same in game 2, and there were elements of this in game 1, that really no one played with the authenticity, the integrity, and the intensity that they would play for their regular club. And I think that's the problem the Blues have. And I don't know whether that's a matter of the coaching staff needing to unlock it, or certain players needing to talk to those around them. There were players who missed tackles. There was one try there where I know 3 players in that tackle would not miss that during the week. But yet, but for some reason, throw them in a Blues jersey on a Wednesday night, it happens. And this is, I think, what Madge was able to do so well. Was able to sort of make this distinction that, look, you're going to have to play like this to win this. And I thought he did that brilliantly. And I think it's a characteristic of Laurie Daly in the past. I hate being critical of players in these situations. I think as a whole, if I had to say one thing about the game collectively from the Blues perspective, is that no one really played with the intensity and the intent that they would on the weekend. Whereas Queensland seemed to be able to do this so easily. And I think that's the goal. I think we're going through the next 12 months and we're going to have to work out a way of getting... I think this idea of picking players and just hoping that they play to their full potential, it doesn't work for New South Wales. And it has never done, really. It's relied on certain... when Bellamy coached New South Wales, he never coached New South Wales in the same way he coached the Melbourne Storm. It's just a feature of what New South Wales is. And I think the best... When I think back in the last probably 10 years, and I think back to the couple of series that we've won, I don't say a couple, it's where players bought in differently. It was almost like they played a different game for each other, and it allowed them to be far more comfortable. I think the reason why a lot of these players don't play to the level they play on the weekend is they feel uncomfortable playing in this team. And that's what it appeared on Wednesday night. Being at the game and watching it, I was watching on telly. I would love to have been there, but we were away, and I'd never seen a group of players look so uncomfortable. That really, when they got the ball, it was almost like you could have put it anywhere but there. It's not, and it's no one's fault. It's just that I think the game plan that Madge had last year was a far better fit for all the players on the field than the one that Daly presented this year. And I'm not crap bagging Daly. That's not what I'm doing. But I just think that you can't appear to have... You can't say, let's just put all these players on the field and let their natural brilliance shine. Last year, Madge came with a definite game plan. And I might be a bit hard. I just didn't see that this time. But anyway, we've got 12 months now till the next game, and that's the way it is. Any closing thoughts on that, Griffo?
Yeah, I will learn to forget that it happened.
Yes.
I've got to say, the Panthers getting the job done on Sunday helped a lot with that.
I was going to ask, what is any part of that part of your grab this week?
Of the game?
Yeah, what's your grab?
Out of that game, I thought Dearden's tackle on Brian Toto was brilliant coming across. You don't often see Brian Toto stopped from that sort of range, so it was a one-on-one tackle.
Was very good.
I believe he won man of the match and also man of the series. Can't argue any of that.
Very deserved.
This was a guy who was a broken man at the beginning of his career when he came through. He was heralded as the next sort of big thing out of Queensland and halfbacks. Didn't work at the Broncos. I think he lost about 6 or 7 games. They sacked him. went to the Cowboys, I think, mid-season. Then they couldn't win a game. So I think at the start of his NRL career, he might have had about 9 or 10 losses before he got a win. And he's showing his class now. I mean, he's fabulous, yet his club side stinks. And that's, that's the thing that when a lot of these guys do play for Queensland, they seem to lift to a level beyond what we normally see in club football. And I know that wasn't the case in game one because a number of them were well below par, but I guess that's the challenge, and you sort of touched on that in your summation earlier, that the challenge for the New South Wales side is to not only match what they do at club level and the reason why they get selected in the first place, but to go beyond that. And that's for next year now.
Did you have a grab from last week's game?
Well, what I did have a grab was the week before. I know we missed out last week, but I mentioned this guy earlier, not that long ago actually, and he did the same thing, and that's the Canberra fullback, number 1, KO Sports. I can't remember who they played. It was their last game. They had the bye in the previous round, but he scored 2 length of the field tries, basically from the kick downfield from his opposition team. He beats 1, he beats 2, and he outsprints the rest. I mean, his highlight reel is better than anyone else in the NRL this year. KO Sports, the Canberra fullback.
Dragons, wasn't it?
I think could have been, yeah.
Because that was close. That was...
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But he just killed him.
And he scored... I know... But he scored a hat-trick, I think, that game too. I'm pretty sure he scored...
I'm not gonna dispute that. But...
I'm pretty sure he scored 3 because
okay.
Savage got 1, Smithies, and I think he got 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2 length of the field efforts from...
Yeah, great.
Getting the kick, and you would think defensive lines would sort of wise up, but they're not.
No.
Maybe he's just that good.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he was touted as a, again, one of these young guns, came through at Manly, and it just didn't quite work out. He played a few games at 5'8", and he sort of got found out in defence a few times. Manly had Turbo at fullback, and as we know now, they got young Hopewati, but and they were loath to sort of use him in the halves. They signed Luke Brooks, so he found a home in Canberra. He's made that position his own. They had Rapiner sort of there sometimes. They've still got a young gun, Chevy Stewart, who's had to play in New South Wales Cup.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I guess, look too good for Chevy with sports now pretty much entrenched. So it was KO Sports from Canberra for the round before, and what we've seen since that time, it was the tackle it did, which, on a rampage in Brian Toto, who was New South Wales' best player in the series, along with Payne Haas. But it'd be interesting to see who gets the Brad Fittler medal this year. For mine, it was Brian Toto. He scored 5 tries, which I believe is a record for the number of tries in a series for the Blues. So he was good. Playing with injury. One of the few Blues who enhanced his reputation through this Yeah.
Yeah, fair call. I suppose speaking about Canberra, we'll do a quick run through the NRL ladder as it stands at the end of this round. Canberra Raiders number one, 14 wins, 3 losses, 32 points. They're well out. They're 2 wins clear of the Melbourne Storm on 30. Bulldogs on 30, Warriors 28. Broncos 10 wins on 24. Penrith Panthers, who have just had a sublime 6 weeks, really. They're on 23. They're 8-7 now. We put the challenge to them earlier in the year regarding the podcast, and they've risen to that challenge quite dramatically. Seagulls are next on 22. Roosters 22. Sharks 22. Dolphins 20. Just to note there, Sharks have 9 wins, and those 3 above have 8. Dragons 18, Cowboys 17. Knights are on 16 points. West Tigers on 16 points. Eels on 16 points. The South Sydney Rabbitohs, they're just... we'll talk about them, I suppose, when we preview the game. Which is the game of polar opposites. You've got the one team that's in total form and one that's just not. They're on 16 points, but they're in serious trouble. And the Titans on 14 are finishing the round. We'll go to. I suppose we'll have a quick chat about the Telstra Women's Premiership. I suppose we'll talk quickly. Did you see the send off this week, Griff?
I did. I didn't see too much of the games. Some of them I watched the minis.
Yep.
Somewhere along the line, I did see the footage of it was spear tackle, was it not?
Yes.
Yeah, nasty.
Very interesting that there's some commentary that come out that said that was it worthy of a send off.
Yes.
Live, I've got to be honest. Live, I went, ooh, she's in trouble. I didn't know it would be a send off. It's once you get your hand between the legs of a player and you have that second sort of lift and drop, you have to be sent off. That's the way the game works now, and in all forms of rugby league, if you've got your hands between the legs of a player and you're lifting and you no longer have control of that player, you have no other, as a referee, you have no other option but to send them off. And you know
what she copped, Shana?
No, I actually tried to find that before the podcast, and I couldn't. I might even just quickly see if the NRL judiciary. Here we go. 3 hours judiciary report. Here we go. So just hadn't been.
Just while you're looking at that, just the other thing that was a little bit nasty was
2 games.
In the West Tigers. Okay, 2
game ban.
Yeah.
Early guilty plea.
Okay, that's probably given the size of the season.
Size of the season. That's fair.
Yeah,
I think.
Probably fair. Because she did get sent off as well. So.
Yeah.
The other one was in the Tigers game. Can't remember who they played, but
Dogs.
Yes, that's right. The big Dogs forward, who was pulling the hair of the. It was a chirpy.
Oh yes.
Chirpy tiger, literally,
ooh.
The Dogs forward would have tipped the scales probably nearly twice what the young tiger was at. Although there was plenty of chirp in the tiger, but she sort of ripped her hair. Then she's given her a couple of pushes to the face, and I thought she was lucky not to be sent off as well.
Can
She
I
got
just say,
10 in the
Griff?
bin,
I
but
thought that was I thought it's very hard for a referee to send someone without precedent. I think the NRL should have come out, supported the referee wholeheartedly, and said, "Look, we don't have a precedent for this, but in future, this is you'll get marched."
yeah, I don't know if that young lady she got suspended or not, but I could see a week in that for sure.
Oh, 100%. That
Yeah.
was that was really
Yeah, it took a while for some of the Tigers teammates to get across there. There was a number of Bulldogs girls, and as I said, that one in particular, I think she was a second rower, might have been a prop, who was really giving it to the diminutive young Tiger, who wasn't taking a backward step, it's got to be said, but yeah, certainly the hair pull followed up by a couple of palms to the face.
The hair pull, was that by take her anger?
Yeah.
Yeah. She got there's a grade 2 contrary conduct charge that she took an early guilty plea for one match, and a grade 1 striking charge for $400 fine.
Well, she hit it twice.
So there you go. So grade 2 contrary conduct, first offence, early guilty plea, got 1 match, and a $400 fine. $400
again,
fine.
when you take into account what the girls are on, I guess
that's
because $400 sounds like nothing, but
yeah, but when you get, that's true.
I think probably she got off slightly lightly.
I agree with you. I think probably first offence and early guilty plea, because grade 2 would have meant grade 2 outside of first offence would have meant instantly 2 games, regardless of the guilty plea and points. So yeah, lucky.
Yeah.
I know the size of the season, but I think lucky. Anyway, that's just me. I suppose we have a quick chat about their games coming up this week. On Saturday, Raiders play the Eels. This is probably, as far as the Eels and Raiders goes, it's probably, like as far as women's rugby league goes, at this point in time, this is probably as close as it's going to get for these two teams. Interestingly, Raiders would probably see themselves as the favourites here. Abby Church for the Parramatta Eels really just needs to lead the sides around, and Rachel Pearson in a halfback. Interestingly, that Rachel Pearson just isn't getting the value out of the forwards that she needs, and I think Ruben Cherrington will need to lead this side around this week, because they really need to, they need to show something this season, and maybe this is the game to do it against the Raiders team, who's playing some decent football. Got some people in this week, but this is a flip the coin at GIO Stadium.
The Raiders get pumped last week.
Yeah, they did, but this is the problem. They're playing the Eels.
Well, the Eels won their first game.
Yeah, that's true. I just think, for me, I
beat the Sharks. I thought that was a good win by the Eels.
It was a great win.
Round.
Their forwards just do not. If you look at that game, the backs. The Eels are a side that's going to be driven by their backs. So a smart rugby league side would pin the Eels down into the corners, and I think the Raiders have some fairly smart halves in Thomas and Tamara. But yeah, I this is a flip a coin for me, and the Raiders being at home, I have such a soft spot for the Parramatta Eels women's side. I just want to see them win, and if their forwards can just step up this week, they might just get it. Bugger it, I'll choose the Eels.
I'll be honest. I don't know enough about some of these teams. There's so many new players. I'll lean to the Eels as well, but I don't. I can't say that with any great authority. As you say, they've got some quality in the back line. They got Elsie Albert up front, still missing Kennedy Cherrington. But they've got that surprise win in round one. I'll stick with them.
Saturday, 3:15, the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs take on the St George Illawarra Dragons. This is at Accor Stadium. This is going to be a really interesting game because I think this is actually a game of the forwards. This is where, for either side, these forward packs really do play well. Minus the suspension, but I actually think that this could actually be a really powerful game this week, and it might just be made for people like Tegan Berry, where once people start to get a little bit tired, there's a bit of space out there and a bit of room out there, and Racine McGregor, as always, is a quality rugby league player, as is Taylor Preston for the Canterbury Bankstown side. I'm going to tip the Dogs, but it's going to be a very, very powerful game. What do you reckon with the Dogs at home, Griff?
I haven't seen enough of them. I know they've won their first two games. They were quite good. I saw the first game. I like what the Dragons are building with a young squad, really talented players, led by the very experienced and skillful Racine McGregor. I like their backline. There's plenty of pace there. Obviously, Tegan Berry at the forefront there. Indy Bostock has sort of graduated from the under-19s, and she's looked good in a couple of, certainly with ball in hand. Very skillful. Casey Ray Cyrus is the 5'8". She is the niece of Brett Stewart.
Oh,
Brett and the Stewarts. I'm just
Brett and Glenn.
Glenn Stewart. That's it. I was thinking Battle of Brookvale. She's the niece of those guys.
Oh, that's cool.
She's certainly come from good rugby league pedigrees. I like the hooker Hopkins as well. I hope, I'm not certain, but I hope to see a Dragons victory here, because I like the style of, they certainly do use the ball well. The Bulldogs are playing more of a power game, and they're doing it well because they won both games. But I like to see the Dragons win. I don't know if they will, but I'm going to tip the Dragons.
On Saturday, we also have at Shark Park, we have the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks taking on the North Queensland Cowboys. I suppose this is an interesting game for the Sharks. They would love to win this and really start cementing their place in that top four. They're fourth at the moment. The Cowboys, when I watch the Cowboys play, they have sets of sixes that you just go that was sets of sixes that they're great, and then they're coupled with sets of sixes. It's just horrible that, dropping the ball, indiscipline. They're a team still learning their craft. I think it's still understanding who they are. It's very hard when you're looking at people like Ellie Johnson, Quincy Dodd, Jacinda Carter. They're when we start talking about some of these names for the Sharks, Tiana Penatani Gray, they are household women rugby league names up against a Cowboys team that really struggle with their discipline. I think if they can start to tighten things up, they might challenge the Sharks. In saying that, I've got the Sharks winning this one fairly clearly.
Yeah, I'm going to go Sharks as well. They had a surprise loss in round one to the Eels, but bounced back with a big win last week. So I'm going to stick with them.
On Sunday, 11:50 at Leichhardt Oval, we have the West Tigers taking on the Gold Coast Titans. Look, if Spirit was worth points, the Tigers would be right up there. They just turn up every week. They show a lot. In saying that they are struggling a bit, but this is one I think they can win. I'm actually going to tip them this week. I think that they can actually beat the Titans. The Titans have some skill across the park, and they've got some really good forwards that can really lay the foundation. For me, it's Kezi Apps. Kezi Apps is the one I think who is starting to show this young Tigers team how to play, what to do, and they're still a very big work in progress, and I think it's now time for their halves to light things up. I think we're going to see something this week. Now that I've said that, they'll probably lose by 40, but I'm going to pick the Tigers in this one.
Okay. Have either of these teams won a game yet?
Don't think so.
All right. So 2 points beckons for one of them.
That's true.
I expected more from the Gold Coast. They haven't started the season well. They got sort of pumped by the Broncos. I think they went up to North Queensland in round one and lost. Tigers were pretty good last week. I thought they were very good last week. I thought they'd started to show against the dog side that, they could. That's what gives me hope. That's why I think they're going to do the job this week. Yeah. Kezi App scored a great try last week. Lily McGrath's come from the Dragons. She was part of their junior side that won the comp with a lot of girls that are now in the Dragons side. So she's a good signing for the Tigers, good skillful player. I'm going to go with the Tigers this week.
At 1:45 on Sunday at Totally Workwear Stadium, this is a blockbuster game as far as I'm concerned. The Brisbane Broncos will take on the Sydney Roosters. Across the park, there's just absolute skill. Broncos, Tamika Upton is the captain there. They got, of course, they've got people like Ali Brigginshaw, Jada Ferguson. They are probably the 1 to 17 side where I know that the age hits them a little bit, but geez, they're a good side. But when you look at the Roosters, Isabel Kelly, the captain and centre for them, quality player. Corbin Baxter, Jocelyn Kelleher are the 6 and 7, and their forward pack is just it's so classy, and it's Olivia Koenig in at number 13 for them. That is a very complete rugby league team. It's in Brisbane, so I understand that people be edging towards Brisbane to win. I've got the Roosters in this one. I actually think the Roosters are building quite nicely. I know the forward pack for the Broncos are going to be up for this, but I just, Yasmin Strange, looking at that, looking at her, and the way she plays, Kelly Davis, Rima Butler. I love their forward pack too, and I just think with, you know, you got Jessica Surgis on one side, Isabel Kelly on the other. Like we mentioned the halves earlier, I just think, you know, they're a really quality team. Bridie Parker at fullback. I think we're going to see a Roosters win north of the border.
Yeah, I think so. The Roosters are missing still Taryn Aiken.
Yes.
When I sort of did my research before the first round, it was thought that she was just going to miss one game, but we're into round 3 and she's still not named. And saying that...
And not on the horizon either.
Oh, really?
Yeah, from what I understand, another week away, so that would take him to round 5. We're round 3 this week, aren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a chunk. That's a big chunk of the season when you start thinking about how long they play for.
Bottom line is they keep winning anyway.
Yeah. What's the issue?
So without the world's best player, they're still winning games.
Yeah.
That's the depth of this Sydney Roosters team. You know, I'm going to stick with the Roosters. I was very impressed in the first round with the young winger, the Fijian girl, Naravidi. I think the Blues winger got injured. I don't know if she's out for the season. Jamie Fassad. I don't know if it was round 1 or round 2, but she seemed to sustain a nasty injury. So they're missing a couple of players. A very powerful forward pack for the Roosters, and they sort of paved the way. And obviously, you mentioned the class of Surgis and Kelly out wide. Jocelyn Keller has a very good player, sort of deputising in the 7 for Aiken. Corbin Baxter, we know she's a class player. She has been over many, many years. I'm going to stick with the Roosters from Sydney up against a talented Broncos team who've started the season very well.
At McDonald Jones Stadium at 6:15 p.m. on Sunday sees the Newcastle Knights taking on the Warriors, the New Zealand Warriors. This is going to be a very interesting game. The Warriors probably haven't shown the class or the spark that they would want to. On the other hand, when you look at the Newcastle Knights, they've got some very, very good players, and it's led by people like Jessie Southwell, who's their halfback. Yasmin Clydesdale, the captain, second rower. I think since we started covering the Women's Rugby League, Yasmin Clydesdale is a name we seem to say every week, and always in just such glowing terms. And I'll never forget last year that Blues win, and she just she had the game, you know, by the scruff of the neck, and she just kept running, and it's elevated her game throughout this competition. I think the Newcastle Knights are specials here. I've got them winning and quite easily, I think, in the end.
Yeah, I'm going to back the Knights. Class of Jessie Southwell. You mentioned Clydesdale. Olivia Higgins, I think she might have missed at least the first game. She's in there at hooker. She's a quality player. Knights for me.
Fantastic. Well, that's the women's Premiership, Telstra Premiership done and dusted. We just got to... Sorry, I'm just working through my things here. And we have a full complement of games this week, and it kicks off tomorrow night from Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. We have the Redcliffe Dolphins. You know what I call them, the Redcliffe Dolphins, taking on the North Queensland Cowboys. That's at 7:50 on Thursday night Rugby-League. I said tomorrow night, didn't I? Because we're used to doing this on Wednesday. It's a Tuesday tonight. It'll be on Thursday night. I suppose there's some big ins for them. The Hammers back, of course, and Kenny Bromwich, he's in. For the Cowboys, Jordan McLean is out, and also for the Dolphins, smashing very rare is also Mark Nichols is also out too. So, looking at these teams, they're fielding some very good players. They're fielding probably the best, some of the best they can. The Hammer, Jermaine Osako, is playing such great football. Tom Dearden, it'd be interesting to see how he comes after Origin. But Katoa, he's had a phenomenal month of rugby league. He's been playing some great some great rugby league. The forward packs, I think the hooker battle is going to be so interesting with Marshall King and Reece Robson. They're even to the point where you look at the benches, and the benches look like they're going to play a very keen role in this. When you look at where each team is at 10 and 12th, a win here is just so important. I've got the Dolphins getting this one, Griff. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm going to tip the Dolphins. These guys have been decimated by injury. The forward pack that they're fielding, I think only Jeremy Marshall King would be lining up as a starting forward if all people were on deck. You mentioned Smashing Baby was out. So is Finafiliaki this week. But they were already missing Kafusi, Gilbert, Flegler, and Saifiti. So they've been absolutely smashed by injury in the forwards. Their backline is still very strong. They are missing Jack Bostock, he's out for the season, and Cody Nikarima also out. But even last week without the Hammer, they still threatened to come back in the game where they looked to be out of it. Not so much on the scoreboard because their opposition didn't really score too many, but they came back against the odds. And were it not for the effort of Toby Rudolph to prevent Marshall King from scoring under the post, they might have come back and actually beat the Sharks. And they just weren't in it in the first half. But you got to credit these guys. I just think they're going to be a little bit too good. The Cowboys promise much, deliver little. They do have, and you mentioned some of the quality in their side, but the two main men are halfback Tom Dearden and fullback Scott Drinkwater. You know, they can do plenty of good things. I noticed Purdue is back at 5'8" this week.
Yes.
Which is interesting because they tried him there and then put him back to the centres. At this stage of his career, he more to me looks like his best value is running out wide, and he just burns people with his speed. But they know sort of what they've got there, I guess. They've been disappointing this year, and I'm going to stick with the Dolphins. It's season over for the Cowboys, I think, if they don't win this game.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting. Laybutt, Burns, Talangi, Paulo. Yeah. I look at Purdue.
Oh, they've finally dropped Derby.
Yeah. I look at Purdue there, and I'm a little with you. Anyway, that's the way it is. On Friday, 6 o'clock, we see what I think is going to be a cracking game of rugby league. 9th versus 8, we see the Cronulla Sutherland Sharks taking on the Sydney Roosters. This will be at Shark Park in Sydney. I think this is going to be a a really interesting game. Chad Townsend is going to be in the 5/8 role with Sam Walker this week.
I find that astounding.
What's that?
I'm astounded by that.
Yep.
I hadn't seen the teams. Like,
yeah, I know.
I've been on the road.
And I think Sam... I'm like...
I can't believe that.
I don't know when the last time I said Chad Townsend at number 6.
What's Sandon Smith? What's happened to him?
Well, his name...
He was on fire, and then he missed out last week when Walker came back, and he's on the extended bench.
So he's on the extended bench now. He's 20th. He's number 20 on the extended bench. So, yeah, it's interesting. Up against a Cronulla side, which is... I don't want to say out loud they're finding their mojo again, but they sort of are. They're sort of finding their mojo again. Nico Hines is starting to find his feet. He's going to have a good opposition to test himself against here. I think for me the biggest problem with the Sharks is their bench. I look at the Roosters and I look at the Roosters bench versus the Shark bench, and I don't know. Hammond Uele of the Brandon kind for the Sharks is there. Toby Rudolph at number 16, but geez, it's a good bench for the Roosters.
I don't know. Haystacks is not a bad player. Haystacks
No.
Atkinson's a bit of a live wire. I don't think it's a bad bench.
Yeah, I just look at. I think the Roosters bench is but no, that's not taking anything away from Daniel Atkinson or Jesse Colquhoun, Haystacks, but yeah, I look, I've got the Sharks winning this regardless. In saying that, I do think that they've found their mojo, but it's going to be interesting to see what the Roosters throw up here, because both these sides I think both these sides need this win, and I think the Sharks are just finding their mojo at the right time. I want to see, and I agree with you. I think Atkinson and Haystacks, Rudolph, Hamueli, I want to see them do what we know people like Egan Butcher can do and Spencer Leniu can do. Zach Docker-Clay is very tough as well. So I've got the Sharks winning this one, but I think this is actually going to be, as far as a Friday night game goes, to kick off Friday night, I think this is actually a really good one.
Yeah, it's a big game in the context of where teams are on the ladder. The Sharks won last week, and they were doing it quite well, actually. And then the Dolphins really threatened to take the game away from them. I don't know if the Sharks scored in the second half, but they'll be needing to lift if they're going to beat the Roosters, who have surprised most people this year, particularly after quite an ordinary start to the season. But they've unearthed a lot of talent, and what I do think we'll see is some really good open football, and both teams have got very, very good 1 through to 5. A lot of try-scoring potential there. Nico was very good last week. He had his best game probably in some time. Scored some tries, set up some, at least one. He was good last week. I'm just astounded to see Chad Townsend back in a starting side against his former club. I don't know why. Whether they think Sam Walker and Sandon Smith, maybe there's a problem with the kicking game, or because Savala has been really good with a long kicking game that the Roosters have lacked for some time. I just don't know what Chad Townsend is bringing to this team. They brought him down from the Cowboys, where he sort of wasn't playing first grade. I think he started 1 or 2 games early in the season and they dropped him. But there we are. I'm going to stick with the Sharks at home.
Yeah. Yep, that's a very fair call. So we've got another game on Friday. And that's one that we're both sort of interested in. Probably you're more interested in it than I am. But the Penrith Panthers will take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs. This is a CommBank Stadium in Sydney. It's 8 o'clock game on Friday. Look, there's some key ins and there's key ins and key outs really. But it's a key in for Penrith. Brian To'o, Dylan Edwards. There's some key ins for the Panthers. The outs, Isaiah Yeo, Isaac Tago, Nathan Cleary will not be playing. And when you look at the way South Sydney's playing, you couldn't argue that you could let those guys have a break or do what they need to do. And key in for South Sydney would be Latrell Mitchell. Mamazelos is also in as Brandon Smith. Campbell Graham is injured and Davey Moali is also out. And that, when you look at how many injuries they've had this year, to see people like Smith and Graham out as well as Moali, it really is becoming a tapestry of who they can field and when. Jack Whiten's in at 5'8". Cody Walker has been ruled out for the rest of the season. That would, be interesting to see what the rest of his career looks like beyond that. I suppose, Griffo, you talk to Penrith and I talk to South Sydney, and we'll have a discussion somewhere in the middle. But I think South Sydney would have to play out of their skin to get close to Penrith this week. Scott Sorensen, he's also in, isn't he?
He's back from suspension.
And Talangi and Schneider will be the 6 and 7. Tell us about Penrith, Griff.
Well, I first heard that I was on the radio when I was in the car late this afternoon, and heard that both Yo and Cleary weren't playing, and that sort of concerned me, to be honest. I think Souths are in with a chance. I understand why they're resting them, but I would have kept one of them there, either Cleary or Yo, and I'd feel pretty confident. But they do have Dylan Edwards back, and also Toto comes back, but they're not the ones directing the play. Edwards directs the defense, which is going to help, but I think they've opened the door for the Rabbitohs, and I know they've stunk for some time, Souths. Not just because they've had injuries, and you've got to be fair, they have had a lot of injuries, more than most teams, but they haven't played well for a little while.
There's been plays that have not been NRL standard. I'll get to that in a minute.
Well, Souths beat Penrith earlier in the year.
Yeah.
And Souths were going well then, and Penrith were going through, a poor start to the year, but you don't want to be dropping. If you're aspiring to be in the top 8, you don't want to be dropping 4 points to the Rabbitohs. And I think Penrith will win, but I'm not certain. If they play like they've been playing for the last they've won five in a row. The big difference has been the defense, which early in the year was pretty ordinary, and they were averaging something like 28 to 30 points against, and particularly out wide, they were just being cut to pieces. But that's really improved out of sight as Talongi, McLean, and Jenkins have played now a number of games together, and I thought they were very solid overall against Para, who threw lots at them last week. I was really concerned in that first half that Para were playing so well, but encouraged at the same time that Penrith's defence was really back to premiership winning defence of past seasons. I'm going to tip Penrith, but they've got some significant outs. See what happens. I'm glad to see Alamotti's got a spot there now. He sort of was the guy who was missing out. I thought, again, he was very good last week against Para. He's such a strong runner of the football. Not the best goal kicker. He's doing his best. But whereas in the past, when Penrith scored, you Cleary kicking, you're pretty confident that most of the goals are going to go over. I'm not quite having that confidence now. Penrith to win, but I'm not as confident as I expected to be, because I did not expect both Yo and Nathan Cleary to be rested. I hope it doesn't bite him in the backside. Shano.
Yeah, South Sydney have been poor at times, and you know what? They've been poor in halves. 4 weeks there where they played, some very good opposition. They actually won each half. They lost one half and won the other, and it's just like it's decisions and things that are happening that a first grade NRL side shouldn't happen to them. It's no coincidence that Jai Gray, who's injured, absence from this team has had, that's the one, I suppose, at the start of the year he was fullback, winning games, he was leading Daly M. That's got to count for something. I know Latrell Mitchell was always going to come back. He's come back. Jai Gray got shuffled out and sideways, and since then South Sydney just hasn't had the punch or the go forward that we had back then. A couple of weeks ago saw some signs that they were going to do well. Absolutely fell to pieces in the second half. Isaiah Tass, really, I don't think he'd find a place in any other first grade rugby league side. That's not me being horrible, I'm just saying it out loud. He had some really good form last year, and typified by the game. I think it was against the Panthers, where we had that last minute try to win the game. He was great that night. He actually owned the centres, and that was against a premiership winning side, and he actually stood up and pulled them apart. I haven't seen that a lot, and in defence has been found wanting. We've got Tallis Duncan playing the centres, which I don't mind, but that's always going to be a work in progress. Totola, Kolomatangi. Totola hasn't had the form he's had of previous seasons. I think injuries have led to that, and he's had a really disrupted preparation to this year, and just hasn't been able to find fitness or form. So hopefully starting this week might be an into that. Ewan Aiken and Jacob Host at second row worry me dramatically. I really think they're just going to have to play meat and potatoes football, really. That I don't want, we're not going to have anything out wide. Jairo in the lock is the same. This is what happens. You've got these three players who are in our second rows and lock, and that's South Sydney's attack has been so prevalent on that running wide or that player playing the ball and not having Colin Matangi in that second row or someone in it like Tallis Duncan. I really don't think we're going to get the ball out. I think our attack's just going to be stifled by this, and it's not because it's their fault. It's just injuries have led to this. Is the only way we can set the team up. Lachlan Hubner, I think when he comes on in lock, it's going to be a very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to watch. Liam LeBlanc must be elevated, please. I don't know what Lewis Dodd's there at 17.
I was going to ask you. They got Mamazelos and Lewis Dodd listed on the interchange.
No, I don't know. I think that's Wayne just doing Wayne things. I think Lewis Dodd will drop off. Either that or he'll start. Like you can't have this guy at number 17. He's number 18. I would like to think that him and LeBlanc will switch, and that'll allow Liam LeBlanc to play some lock, and he's a very good ball playing lock. The other guy on the bench, Shakai Mitchell, when he plays, he does make meters well. So looking at, Sean Kepi is good for a drop ball. I think our biggest problem is not necessarily getting up the field, but when we get up there, we don't know what to do, and really, I think this is why Liam LeBlanc needs to be in that side. Lewis Dodd dropped to 18, and that's the way it works. Look, you know who I'm going to pick because that's the team I follow, but the Panthers should win this well. I know they got players out, but they're playing a side who. There's certain players playing in positions that really, like, they haven't trained for, nor have we done well. The one thing I will say, this back line has a little bit of continuity about it with Jack White in at 5'8". So, you might be able to spark something. Jamie Humphries' kicking game could help, but I just look at who's on the other side, and Brian Totter's going to make 250 metres at least. Moses Leota and Mitch Kenny they're going to do their things, and I just look at Sorensen, Gardner, Papali'i, Dane Laurie in at 14. I just look at the Peter Mamazelos will have to start playing the game that he was talking up when he was the understudy to Cook, because when he was the understudy to Cook, he was talking up a game that was had a lot of hype about it, and now he's in first grade. We're yet to see it, so this might be the game to do it. It's at Combank Stadium. It's Friday night. The weather looks very good for Friday night, so it looks like we're going to get some decent football. At GIO Stadium on Saturday at 3 p.m, we see the Canberra Raiders taking on the Parramatta Eels. I suppose Josh Papali'i and Hudson Young, they're out. Danny Levi's also out for the Raiders, but when you look at their side, K.O. Weeks in a fullback, we spoke about him earlier. The role that Strange and Fogarty are playing, Josh Papali'i, Tom Starling, Joseph Tarpany at captain. Hudson Young and Papali'i are ins. Did I say they were out or ins? They're ins.
They were out.
Sorry, they're ins. Tarpany, they're ins. Sorry, from the Origin. So Zach Hostings, Corey Horsburgh, 1 to 17. This side is playing a very good brand of football. Looking at the Parramatta Eels, look, they're trying different things in different ways. I think Jason Rolls is really trying to find. I think he's looking outside the box now to find what he can do to get a team that's going to be cohesive and win and do what they need to do. I got the Raiders winning this very, very comfortably, Griff. What have you got?
Yeah, I look through that Raiders side, and they're a very, very solid unit. The forward pack of Papali'i, Starling, the hooker, Tarpanay, Hudson Young, Hosking, and Horsburgh. That's a really solid 6. And then on the bench there with Paddy to come on as the dummy half, Simi Sasongi, Smithies, and Moriarty. That's a lot of strength there. We know about the pace they've got in the back line, pace and power. It's a really well-balanced team who've surprised everyone. Most pundits had them finishing close to the bottom of the ladder before game 1, and then they saw what they did, and I saw it live. I saw what they did, and whoa, this team actually, they look like they're going to make the 8. I didn't think they were going to be minor premiers, but it's shaping that way. While Para will put up a good fight and will throw the ball around, they're not going to be able to match the Raiders. It could get ugly if Para make as many mistakes as they did the other day against Penrith. They lose their very handy second rower, Kitioni Kautonga, to the injury that kept him out of the second half due to the Tango hip drop, which he copped a game for. So it's a big loss for them. They've left Dylan Brown out of the 17, made a decision as a club that because Brown's not part of their future, he's not part of their present, really. They're shaping, they know they're not going to make the 8, but what they're trying to do is build for next year. They've given the 6 jersey to Joash Papali. He goes with Papali. Others go with Papali'i, which confuses us all, but, you know, it is what it is.
So he goes with Papali, does he? Or the Josh
He goes
does?
with, yeah, Joash. Yeah, he goes with Papali.
Okay.
Which is what we all know. Well, when Josh Papali came through, and for probably 7 or 8 years, that's what we knew him as. It's okay. We can be confused, but we know that one plays number 6 and the other one's a somewhat bigger front rower. Interesting, Hopgood is in the front row for Para. Dylan Walker's started the last couple of games. He's been in superb form for them this year. Williams, who's been a prop, is going into the second row to cover for Katonga. Talon De Silva plays his second game. We're going to see some interesting things from the Eels, but Canberra for mine.
That sounds like a pretty good deal. We've got... Sorry, mine. It wouldn't be a podcast without my computer chucking a wobbly at least once. No, we're back
I remember the day, Shano, where there wouldn't be a podcast without me disappearing.
That's all right. That's okay.
Didn't have the great internet back in the day. Well, actually, the internet was okay. It's just I was too far from the router where I was back in those days.
Well, on Saturday at 5:30, we see the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs taking on the St George Illawarra Dragons. This is from Accor Stadium. Some interesting, I suppose, some interesting ins on the reserves bench. Nothing that's really going to trouble the starting lineups in any way, shape, or form, except for I think Lockie Galvin. Now, where is he? Lockie Galvin
He's
is
halfback.
named at halfback, so he's
Yeah.
a big in.
He was dropped he
Stephen,
wasn't selected last week.
well, he wasn't selected, yeah. Stephen Crichton, he's in for them as well. Coming back from Origin. We also have Kurt Mann, he's in, and Tupanua is on the reserves bench. He is number 19. Be interested if he comes forward or not. Everyone else for the Dragons, they're sort of on an extended bench, which includes Lockie Ilias. When we look at these sides, the Dragons are a team that have flashes of brilliance, sort of woven. They're a bit of a tapestry of flashes of brilliance interwoven with times of absolute lunacy. Whereas the Dogs, they're third at the moment, and I think if the Dogs, if you talk to the Bulldogs players about where they're at on the table, they would see themselves as number one, and they would be frustrated they're not there. They're going to need Matt Burton and Lucky Galvin to find some sort of partnership together, because I'm telling you now, there's a guy at number 23, the Sex Bomb, Toby Sexton. They were playing some exceptional football earlier this year, and he was doing some really good work. So, if they're going to go forward, it's going to be requiring Lockie Galvin to play the football they need from him. Otherwise, I'd be starting to think that go back to what works and what has led you some very good wins. Reid Marnie, very, very interesting to see how he plays, understanding what's going on there. The weak-gutted Dog, Lock, Kurt Mann, Hayes, Curran, and Haywood. I think that everything there is exceptionally balanced. Versing the Dragons, like I said, when the Dragons get it right, they actually are playing some pretty good footy and doing some really good things. When they get it wrong, oh my God, is it wrong? I really think that the Bulldogs just know how to play grinding football that will absolutely strangle the Dragons. I've got the Dogs in this one, Griff, and I've got them doing pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Dogs will win. But it's interesting that they're still tinkering with what their best 17 is. It'd be really interesting if the Dragons can beat them with Galvin playing in the 7 jersey. What do they do next week if that happens? I don't think it'll happen, but you never know with the Dragons. Sometimes they pull a win from places that you really don't know or weren't expecting. I've got to stick with the team that's been very consistent through the year. They've only lost about 4 games, and I don't think it's going to be number 5 this week. I think the blue and white team will prevail, but the Dragons, you can't be sure with them. But the odds are with the Bulldogs, so I'll stick with that.
I agree. It's a bit of a big game for the Doggies too. Just putting it out there, because if they don't play well this week, eyebrows will be raised. 7:35 at Amy Park, we see the Melbourne Storm taking on the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. Cameron Munster is in for them, as well as Xavier Coates. What have we got? So Michael Cheekham's out. That's okay. But where's the Sheepdog? Where is he being listed?
He's 18.
He's 18. Okay.
I haven't seen him all year. The
no,
dog.
Sheepdog's in, and he's number 18.
Well, he's 18.
There you go. So that's interesting. And as you'll see, Nick Meaney, he's in at fullback. um, after the calf strain of Ryan Pappenhausen. Look, this is a game for me that on the surface you go, the Storm win this and win it well. But geez, I want to see if the Storm are serious about this competition, and everyone's saying, oh, the Storm are favourites, Storm are favourites. Well, I'm telling you now, right? I'll put it in perspective. They are second on the table. They're going to need to beat the Seagulls well. If the Seagulls want to play finals football, this is one they're going to have to hang in there with. It's going to take people like Ruben Garrick, Tom Trbojevic. You've got Jason Saab in the back. Daly Cherry Evans and Luke Brooks are going to have to play their absolute heart out. Jazz Tavanga in at hooker is just going to have to lead this team around. I think, look, I've got the Storm winning this one, but I want to see what the Seagulls bring to the table here, because if they're going to look like a serious final side, this could be the game where they have to cement themselves. Storm will win this, but it's going to be interesting. This is more than just the win-loss game here. This is going to be very interesting to see if the Storm elevate their game and if the Seagulls turn up.
Yeah, you don't know what Manly's side from week to week is going to be on display. Last week they had the bye. I think they had a win before that. I just think Storm will win this game. I think on paper they look better, even without Pappenhausen there. I just think the forward pack, the guys coming off the bench, are a stronger forward pack than what Manly can put together. Manly's, hit by long-term injuries to Paseka, who's basically been out all year. O'Shea Ole, likewise, and Hamoli Olakawatu. So the forward pack they're putting out, I don't think is going to be able to deal with the Storm forward pack. I am going to tip Melbourne, fairly confident on this one.
Yeah. At 2:00 on Sunday at Leichhardt Oval, we see the West Tigers taking on the Gold Coast Titans. Brett Naden is in for them, as well as Tyler May. They're probably the big ins for either of these sides. I actually had my spill already for this game, and I'm like, I probably wrote it about 5 times, because you've got a side in the West Tigers who have been playing some really decent football. Like, their forward pack have been getting it together. When Appy goes forward, he's able to give good service to people like Alex Seyfarth. The way he's in a lock, and he look, that guy plays at 110%. Tyrell May, who's a prop, he's doing some really good work. And they're led around by people like Jerome Luai, and it's Taylor May in the centre, Charlie Stain, Taruva at fullback. I look at this team and there's the nucleus of something. And then, I don't know what, but it's there. They're playing a Titans side that I just can't put my faith or hope in at the moment. They are a sinking ship. Like, I talk about the team that I follow. Well, there's one team lower. So it's like, well, they just have not been able to remotely play the rugby league that they're capable of, or nor what they want to do. Not for the lack of trying, Big Tino, he's got a lot of heart, but he's got a series of players around him who and this is with no disrespect, are impersonating NRL players at the moment. They're not even playing to their standard. They're impersonating the type of people that should be playing NRL. And I know a lot of heat has come on Des Hasler, and Des Hasler's gone. But geez, you know what? if they don't want to play for him, they don't want to play for him. I get that, but there's players that just have not been to NRL standard throughout this season, and their attack has looked okay. Their defence is shocking. The amount of missed tackles they make. They don't slide in defence, so they inadvertently they lose out wide all the time. I think at home the Tigers are going to win this, and if the Tigers are in for a night, they may even put a number on them. I've got the Tigers.
Yeah, when I do my tips, I'll be ticking the box for the Tigers, but I'm not confident. Very interesting. Taylor May playing his first game for the Tigers in the NRL. Well-documented, controversial figure for a few years, Taylor May. He comes back into the NRL after, well, I guess it's been a year or so since he last played in the NRL.
I tried to think, a small part of me said 2 years, but it wouldn't have been that long.
No, he was early in the season last year in the centres for Penrith. And then various things transpired and he parted ways with the club. Got a fair payout, I believe. Look, he is a quality rugby league player when his mind is on the job. I believe he scored 3 tries in 10 minutes last week in the New South Wales Cup. He adds to this team, to the potential try scoring of this team. It's an interesting side. Fanua Bole, who I think's been really good for him, he's been relegated to the interchange. We got 3 Lebanese heritage players in the forward pack in Twal, Suka and Duehi. Duehi in at lock now. I think that's not a bad spot for Adam Duehi. He's found some form. He's had all sorts of injuries over his career. I think they win. If they do win this game, basically they won't win the spoon. If they are defeated, then that certainly opens the door for the Titans to be able to rid themselves of what looks like the wooden spoon coming this year. Some interesting selections. I looked through their back line and I saw no Alofiana Khan Pereira, and then I find him he's number 14. That is one of the stranger things that I've seen in a team list. He plays on the wing. He plays nowhere else. You don't often see a winger listed on the interchange bench. I can't understand it, but there's a lot of things I don't understand about this team. A squad that I thought was worthy of making the top 8 this year, who have been pretty ordinary. The coach is leaving at the end of the year. That's been agreed by everyone. I don't know where this club goes, to be honest. I had him in my 8 based on squad. And then on field, they just can't put it together. I'm going to stick with the Tigers. I think they'll win. But you can never be confident. One thing you can say about the Gold Coast Titans is they've got the ability, they've got players who can produce tries from anywhere on the field. Unfortunately, that one of them sits at number 14, which just, I don't understand. But anyway, that's the Titans. I'm going to stick with the Tigers.
Well, to round out, of course, the Brisbane Broncos, they've got the bye this week, so to round out the round 4 this week. On Sunday, we have the Newcastle Knights taking on New Zealand Warriors. That's at McDonald Jones Stadium. That's in Newcastle. And look, I'm going to start by saying this. The Knights are in trouble in more ways than one. Pressure on the coach, who pretty much, I think, is falling on his sword. Kalen Ponga pretty much saying that he wants out of the club. We've heard this before, but there's a lot of this. There's a lot of issues coming out of out of Newcastle at the moment, which suggests that they're in trouble, and I think it might end a pretty awful week, because from the round table already, and it's Tuesday, it hasn't been great. Dane Gagai, he's playing fullback. Bradman Best has not been at his best. Has not been able to show a lot. Hastings and Cogger have done some good things in the halves, but have been struggling. Their forward pack really have not gotten them to where they need to be. They're in 13th at the moment, which I think is somewhere they'd be happy to be, but geez, they're just not finding it. They're going to play a Warriors side that is just absolutely hell-bent on playing every game and winning it. And that's led by people like James Fisher-Harris, who's the captain this week. You've got Wade Egan, hooker, Tanner Boyd and Harris DeVito, the halves. Tuivasa-Sheck on the wing. He seems to be playing some solid football. The Warriors are playing solid football. The biggest problem here is the Knights at home can be a very different beast. They can really elevate their game. I think at the business end of the season, though, Andrew Webster is just going to have this team absolutely wanting to win in the Warriors. Adam O'Brien, he's on the out. There's a lot of unrest in the Knights. I think they're a side that is imploding, and when you implode, you never play a great football. I've got the Warriors winning this one, and they may even put a number in the end.
Yeah, Knights. Just decisions made by people at this club have been somewhat strange. They lose Lucas. Unfortunately, Liz Frank has reappeared. She's just everywhere.
Everywhere. Liz Frank.
She likes Newcastle, though. She's familiarised herself with fullback Ponga, and now Lucas. So this side is a little bit below, quite a bit below their best 17. They're also, of course, missing Fletcher Sharp, who's out for the season. So it's not their best 17. In saying that, the Warriors are down some players, with Metcalf out for the season, along with co-captain Mitch Barnett. But they've got still a very solid forward pack, as well as some damage that can be done from the bench. I'm going to stick with the Warriors to beat the Knights at their home ground. One team's looking at a top 4 finish. The other one is trying to stay afloat of the spoon. And I think it's Warriors for me.
Yeah. Well, that rounds out this round of the NRL Premiership. Griffo, any closing thoughts on the round coming up? Anything you'd like to bring up?
Not awfully. Just it's good to see that we're back to normal. We're back to a full 8 games, and I want to see. I want to go out to Comback Stadium and see the Panthers win. I hope they do. Obviously, you're on the other side of that, and of course the man with 1 foot in each.
Yes,
it's a young man who. If whichever team wins, he can celebrate, and that is your very good brother, Juzzy.
Yeah. So, yes, well, that's the week ahead. Thank you, Griffo, for joining us. And everyone, hope your team wins, or at least plays well. Got some great football coming up. Both competitions, we're heading into finals territory now. This is where if you start to win or lose, it may cement or punch you from certain finals football. To put it in perspective, people, we are basically at the point where in 10 weeks' time the NRL season is sorted. So we got finals in between that. So you guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this as always. And Griffo, as always, a pleasure. And take care, everyone, and see you next week.
Thanks, listeners. For those of you still on holidays, enjoy what's left of them.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.